The motivation that you feel at the beginning of starting something new will never last long enough to carry you to the outcome that you want. And it don't matter how motivated you are. It'll show up and it'll get you going for a few days. If you're lucky, it might last a couple weeks, but then it's gonna wear off. And when it does, that's the moment that determines whether your life actually changes. Because what you're doing is no longer exciting. And when it's no longer exciting, it feels harder to do. And because it feels harder to do, people quit. Look around you. Most people never change, even when they say they really want to. Even fewer people actually build their dream life. And one of the reasons is this: they expect to be motivated all the way until they get there. But I'm here to tell you two things. Number one, it don't work like that. And number two, other people winning is proof that you can win too. But it just won't happen the way that you thought it would. When motivation wears off, that's when people start talking crazy to themselves. I can't do this. I'm not built for this. I'm just not motivated. But what's actually happening is they never train themselves. You never trained yourself to keep going once the novelty wears off. That's why motivation disappears. Your nervous system stops rewarding what becomes familiar. In this video, I'm going to explain why that happens. I'm going to explain why it's normal and how you can still win even if the motivation is gone. In the beginning, motivation feels tangible. It's exciting. You got a new plan, you got that early momentum, you have a sense that something new is happening in your life. But early motivation is not a response to effort. Early motivation is a response to possibility. And then people build their expectations around that, around the possibility. They make new decisions. They create new routines. But your brain, it hasn't adapted to that potential future yet. And so that's why it feels good at first, because the brain is reacting to unfamiliar input. But your brain adjusts faster than your life is going to change. So if you keep going, the excitement is going to fade before your results show up. For instance, you're still waking up earlier, you're still doing what you said you would, you're still being intentional with your life and your time, but the problem is, now it feels normal because you've been doing it for so long. And because it feels normal, you think that it's never gonna happen or that you're not doing something right. And so people typically quit because the novelty wore off. It's boring now. And people use boredom as a sign to move on, because for your entire life, you've been trained to believe that if you're bored, you should find something else to do. But boredom doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that you should move on. It just means that what you're doing is not new anymore. Boredom is what progress feels like before results show up. When something becomes normal for you, it stops feeling rewarding. You don't get that same emotional drive or that same excitement once it's just part of your life. And that's not a problem. That's just how adaptation works. But if you don't understand that, you're going to start hesitating on the things that were actually working. And when you hesitate on things, you stop doing them the way that you were. So it wasn't a lack of motivation that broke the progress, it was the hesitation. That's what happened. This part of growth and change is tough because you're still doing the work, but the drive that you had in the beginning is gone. So the mind starts looking for an explanation, and what you come up with is, well, maybe this is just not sustainable. Maybe I need to do something different. All that shit sounds logical to us, right? You're doing the work, and then there's nothing to show for it right now. But the moment that you start entertaining that thought, you're gonna start adjusting stuff that didn't need to be adjusted. And slowly but surely, you talk yourself out of something that was actually working until you're right back to where you started. Motivation was never meant to sustain behavior long term. So something else has to take over if you're going to stay consistent. Something that will last longer than motivation. Because the people who actually change their lives, they haven't figured out how to stay motivated longer. They figured out how to keep going when motivation was gone. And that's when real change happens, when you continue to act despite not being motivated to do so. When you keep going anyway, even though you don't feel like doing it. That's what's going to set you apart, because most people are going to quit when they don't feel like doing it, which goes back to the main point. Most people don't change. Most people don't live the life that they dream about. Now look, once you understand this, you understand that motivation cannot carry you through. So you can stop thinking that something is wrong with you or that you're not capable. You'll realize that you just reached the point where change actually starts. And in the next video, I'm going to show you what actually carries you from that point forward. Because if motivation ain't going to keep you going, something else has to.